episode 3. These are the perks of not being a wallflower. So this this episode started with some good old fashioned Superman heroics, which was cool to see because you got to give us that. You got to give us him saving an airplane or rescuing a cat from a tree, or you got to give us like random Superman heroism. So and then after that we go into the show. So and speaking of the show, I watched the episode when it aired live on the CW, and the next day, I watched it on the CW app, just to get like my thoughts, like my theories and my notes and stuff together. And I noticed that it said on the CW app, it said extended cut. The episode entitled, like this particular episode, it said episode 3 extended cut, and I'm just like, well, that's odd. Come to find out, and it was kind of the same thing with Stargirl, because when Stargirl first came out, it aired on the DC Universe app, and then the next day it aired on the CW. So because the CW has to deal with commercials, they cut out some scenes of certain episodes. Like a lot of the episodes got certain scenes cut out so it could fit the criteria of the 60 minutes, with the commercials and everything. So I knew for a fact that there were going to be things that was in the DC Universe version that wasn't in the CW version. And apparently here it's the same thing. Apparently these episodes have more scenes than they're giving us on the CW, and on the CW app they're actually showing you the entire thing with nothing cut out. I'm definitely going to watch both versions now just to see which scenes did it make like the live cut on on the CW network. So this particular episode starts with the Kent family, where Clark is talking to he's talking to Jordan. He's just like, listen, you're going to school now, so you got to be careful, regarding your powers. He and his brother, they're talking to their dad. They're just like, oh, tell us some cool Superman stories. Tell us things that you did. He was talking about his breath, like the freeze breath and the X-ray vision and, the super hearing. And he was just like, oh, what was the craziest thing you ever heard? And then Lois was like, don't you dare. And then, and then he was just like, super hearing. They were like, how did you learn how to train your super hearing? And he was just like, well, through his dad and the Fortress of Solitude, and just through time, just learning how to focus it on specific things and like blocking everything else out. So he tells his sons, he's just like, yo, you're going to school now, so just be careful. Don't get in anything crazy. His sons are at school, and they're still being picked on by the football team because, again, like the bully, the big black kid, he's still like dating like the Lana girl, Sarah, I believe her name is Sarah. He's still dating Sarah. And her and Sarah are having some problems, and every problem that they have is being blamed on Jonathan. So there's even a moment where Sarah breaks up with the kid. So now the kid's like really mad, and all his friends really have it out for Jonathan. So they run up on Jonathan in the hallway. Like one of the kids pushes him up against the locker. Like all the football kids they're gonna beat his ass. And while they're talking, they're just like, oh, you think you're cool, Kent? Why you always hanging around my girl? Because he ran up on him. He's like, why you always hanging around my girl, Kent? He's like, you got a problem. They have Jordan up against the locker. His brother tries to come in. They hold his brother back. Meanwhile, Clark's listening to the whole thing, and he's like ear hustling, his children. And to an extent, yes, it is an invasion of privacy, but his motivation behind doing it makes perfect sense, because one of his sons, it's not like he's spying on them just to be a nosy parent. One of his kids has superpowers, and he's afraid that, especially now that he's being bullied, like while Clark's listening, he's just like, yo, these kids are bullying him. He may snap and accidentally like roast someone's head off. And there was a moment where when the bully had, Jordan up against the locker, his eyes did turn red for a split second. So Clark was just like, nah, we ain't doing this. Clark shows up at the school. All the bullies see him and they back off. Now, like after school, now the kids are upset because they're just like, oh, you're listening, you're spying on us, you're invading our privacy. And then he's like, ah. And then they were just like, how long have you been doing this? And he's just like, well, he's like, well, I don't do it all the time. And then they get mad at him and they go in the house. He's talking to Lois, and she was like, first of all, I was mad at your ass too, because there was a moment when the two of them were dating, he did that to her. And she was like, yeah, when I found out you were spying on me, she's like, I almost broke up with your ass. But see, I'm like, first of all, he was spying on you because you're always getting yourself into trouble, and he needed to be there to pull you out the fire. But she took it as, but she was offended or whatever, and he was just like, all right. He was like, I almost lost you back then. He was like, so what should I tell the kids? And then she was like, basically, you tell the kids the same thing that you told me, which got me to forgive you. So the next morning, the kids, he apologizes to the kids, and he's just like, listen, I'm sorry for the ear hustling. He's like, from now on, you're on your own, as long as I can trust you to keep your emotions and your powers in check. With that being said, Jordan now feels like it's appropriate for him to start, joining the football team, because every single kid that's picking on him in the school is a member of the football team. So now he's just like, you know what? You're picking on me. You're picking on my brother. Enough is enough. It's time for a change. Time to get my respect. So he joins the football team. Everybody laughing at him. And because he doesn't have super strength, because he has elevated strength, slightly stronger strength than he had before. He is stronger, and at the same, he's on an equal playing field, if not a little bit stronger than the other kids. So the coach was just like, first of all, Kent, when I heard your puny ass was coming to practice, I thought it was a joke. He's like, but you want to get your head kicked off, get in there and do what you gotta do, boy. So so he goes in there, and then everybody getting ready to laugh at him, and then like this one kid starts running at him, he shoulder tackles him, knocks the kid clear across the field, and everybody's like, oh shit. So now he spends the whole practice like beating people up, knocking people down or whatever. Jonathan, he's a little upset by this because he's like, first of all, you were the kid. He's like, you were the emo kid. I was the sports kid. Okay, you have superpowers now. Like, you're special. Dad's paying more attention to you because you have superpowers. But football's still my thing. Like, this is still the thing that I get to do. And now that you've horned it on my territory, what makes me special? But that didn't drag out over the course of the episode. Jonathan did get over it pretty quickly. The two of them did get into an argument about it. He was just like, yo, just leave the football thing alone. He's like, no. He's like, I'm going to teach these bullies a lesson that they can't mess with us, because we're the Kens, damn it. He's like, we're the Kens, damn it. And I'm not, and they're going to put some respect on our name. So, all right. So Jonathan's just like, all right, fine. He's like, this is what you feel like you got to do just to get the bullies off you. He's like, I'm going to let it rock. I'm going to let it rock. Sarah, I keep calling her Sarah Lane. I don't know her last name, but she's Lana Lane's daughter. We're gonna call her Sarah Lane. So Sarah Lane, she's going through a thing where like her and her mom, are going through a little riff because, she quit the cheerleading team, and she doesn't like hanging around the family. There was a moment where the family was eating dinner. She came out of her room, and then, her mom was just like, oh, why don't you sit down and have dinner with the family? She was like, hells to the no. And then she went in her room. It was like her and her mom started arguing. There was a moment where Sarah was at a diner talking to the Kent boys. Her mom came in, and then she's like, why did you quit cheerleading? And then she was like, yo, because of some bullshit. And then she was like, I thought you were okay. And then she was just like, yo, I'm not okay, mom. Like, the family's not okay. And she's like, stop trying to pretend like everything's okay. And then she gets mad, and she storms out. She storms out or whatever. So then, as she storms out, Lana goes and chases her. Clark comes into the diner, and then he's like, hey, Lana. She's like, shut up, Clark. And then she pushes back by Clark as she walks away. The next day, she saw Clark again. Lana saw Clark again, and she apologized. She was like, yeah, I was being a dick yesterday. She was like, I was being a jerk yesterday. She's like, I'm sorry. And then, Clark was just like, don't worry about it. It's like, I'm a parent too. And then she's like, yeah, speaking of that, she's like, how proud must you be that, that both of your kids, are accelerating in football, and they're like the most popular kids on the football team right now. And he's just like, don't you mean Jordan? And she was like, no, I'm talking about both of your kids. So then it goes back to, to Jordan. He's on the football field, and then Sarah Lane's ex-boyfriend, he's just like, yo, I want one-on-one with the Kent kid. So the two of them, they come to blows. Kent knocks him off his ass, like, Jonathan knocks him like 15 feet back. But then he does the cool thing. In the true superhero fashion, after he knocked the bully on his ass, he extended the hand of friendship, and he said, listen, when you and Sarah were together, I kissed her. That was wrong. I apologize. It's like, can we bury this hatchet, and can we be friends? So the bully, and he shook his hand. The two of them became friends. He was like, yo, don't worry about it. So that was cool. That was cool of Jonathan to see, because he's not power tripping. Like, he's not on like this superhero power trip to where he's just going to whoop everybody's ass. He did do the right thing and take it as an opportunity for him to actually, like make friends with the kids so this whole endless war thing, doesn't continue. But then when he looks over at the field, he sees his dad standing there just like, you got some explaining to do. So now later on, they're back at the house, the whole family's arguing, and then he's just like, Jonathan, you can't play football, because you couldn't play, and then he was just like, why can't I play football? He's just like, because you got to be careful with your powers. And then this is the point where Jonathan need his ass beat. Not Jonathan, I keep saying Jonathan, Jordan. This is where Jordan need his ass beat because he was just like, he's like, I made the decision, to protect you. And then he was just like, oh, you keep making wrong decisions. Every decision that you make is wrong. He's like, you got fired. And I'm like, that wasn't even his fault. He's like, you moved us to Smallville. You said yes when when he asked, and then he was just like, maybe he's like, I liked you better when you weren't in the picture, and then Superman, like Superman, you could tell Superman was just like, all right, I'm about to bust your ass. Like he actually puffed out his chest, got in his face. He's like, yo, if you don't take your spoiled ass upstairs, so Jordan went upstairs, and then they told Jonathan to go upstairs, and then Jonathan ended up talking to Jordan. And then he was just like, well, now you don't have to play football anymore. And he's just like, no, but I like playing football, whatever. And then then Jonathan looked at his cell phone, and one of the kids from the football team called him. So now Jonathan's whole thing is he's just like, playing football is actually like benefiting him from a mental standpoint, because Jordan's the kid with the emotional problems. He's the kid who has like the social mental health issues. He's the one that has like the emotional issues. He was like, playing football, that's actually like calming him down as far as like, football is actually like helping him, so then so then Jonathan goes and talks to Clark, and he's just like, yo, I think you should actually let him play. Clark is just like, why? But it's dangerous. And then he was just like, yeah, but he's actually making friends. Like kids actually like him. He was like, it's actually helping his self-esteem. Like he's not being the quirky, awkward, like loser. Like he's actually turning into a, like a pretty cool kid. And, and then, that was something for Clark, for Clark to think about. And it's the old Spider-Man thing, because I mean, if you go back to Captain America Civil War, where, when Tony was talking to Spider-Man, there was a scene where like playing sports came up. And then, because Tony asked him, he was like, why do you want to be a superhero? He was like, why don't you like play football or play basketball or something? And then, Peter said to him, he was just like, well, before I got my powers, I was a nerd, I was a loser, I was a weakling. If I couldn't play sports then, I shouldn't do it now, because that's going to raise suspicion. It's like, I just can't make a 180 like that. So I was surprised that like the Superman and Lois show went the opposite direction, where they were just like, well, you were a loser before, so you can't be the cool kid now. But because he does have, Peter didn't have like, like emotional problems. But because Jonathan has emotional problems, they're just like, that might actually help him. So Clark kind of came in, he was just like, all right. He was just like, I'm going to let you play, but on one condition. And then this is what I noticed. One scene that I noticed was in this episode that wasn't in the live airing, the live CW airing, because on the CW airing, it just cuts to like after he says, I'll let you join on one condition, it cuts to both Jonathan and Jordan walking with Sarah, and then after Jonathan leaves, Clark shows up with a water cooler because he's supposed to be like the parent that is also on the high school football team. He's like an assistant on the football team. They actually show a scene where Clark has that conversation with the coach of the football team, where he's just like, because both my boys were on the team, I'd like to join the team. And then the coach is like, no, you can't join the team. And then Lois is like, he'll do it for free. And then he was just like, welcome to the team, Kent. So they actually cut that scene out on the live broadcast. But if you go on the CW app, you'll actually see that scene put in. And then that was a cute scene where he was pretending to struggle with the water cooler, and then he was just like, all right, he was like, yo, pretend like you need my help carrying this thing. And then that was a nice little like cute scene. Lana and her daughter, like they made amends, like they had a nice little conversation. They kind of made up for a little bit, so that was nice too. So that that ends the whole like Clark Clark and the boys thing. Lois now, she's still investigating the Morgan Edge situation. And she's trying to get information from other people to come forward and tell some stories. This one woman comes forward and she's like, listen, my son used to work for one of the Morgan Edge companies and he disappeared. He even left me a voicemail saying that he wished he never would have did it and that he loved me, and then that was the last time I ever saw my son. So Lois's new boss, like the quirky girl, she was just like, oh, she was just like, don't automatically blame Morgan Edge. We don't have proof. And then she's just like, oh, it's Morgan Edge. And then while the two of them are arguing about it, somebody blows up Lois Lane's car. So she's just like, She's like, who else? She's like, who else would blow up my car because I'm investigating this, like this whole situation, So then, her, like I said, her and her boss kind of like butted heads with that whole thing for a little bit. Later on, Lois, she's talking to Clark and she's just like, I don't know what to do. And then Clark is just like, yo, why don't you follow your gut? So she's like, all right, cool. She's like, I'm gonna follow my gut. So let me get the keys to the car because they blew up mine. She goes back to talk to the woman that came forth. When Lois goes to the hotel to try to talk to the woman further, the woman's in the bathroom with rope tied around her neck, and then there's like this big dude in the room. He sees Lois, he runs up on Lois, he starts throwing Lois all around the room, and then Lois takes the device that's used to call Superman. And I'm gonna be honest, the device that they use to call Clark on this show looks like a cigarette lighter. I liked it better on Supergirl because on Supergirl, it was a watch. It was a watch that Alex and Jimmy and everybody had. You press the button once on the watch, Supergirl comes. You press the button twice, that means it's a trap and, don't come or whatever. I wish they'd go back to the watch because like the cigarette lighter thing looks kind of weird. So Lois presses the button. Superman shows up to start whooping this dude's ass. And then the funny thing is he can't whoop this dude's ass because for some reason this guy's just as strong as Superman and even put him on his ass a couple of times. Clark had to actually dig deep, to knock this dude down. But eventually he was able to knock the dude down. He got the girl to the hospital, and then Lois was just like, yo, like somebody actually tried to kill me. She goes back to her editor. Her editor apologized. She was just like, you were right. There was something bigger going on, because she found out that somebody tried to kill her. And then she was just like, I'm not used to this because I'm a small town girl, but, she was just like, but you're right. You're Lois Lane. She's like, I got your back. So let's investigate this whole thing together. Let's look into this whole thing together. So now both of them together, they have a board that has pictures of like Morgan Edge and like other people on it, pictures that they can, they're building a case now. So now the Smallville Gazette, they're going to devote all their resources, both of them, to figuring out the Morgan Edge situation and uncovering the truth. And then finally, the guy that tried to kill the woman in the hotel. Now I'm thinking at this point, he's someone from Captain Luthor's Earth, that has like elevated power or whatever. So then he's driving in a car and then he's just like, yeah, I wasn't able to kill the woman. Superman showed up. We'll get her later. And then this other woman is standing in the street. He almost runs her over. He stops his car, and then this woman uses laser vision and like roasts him and like kills this dude. So I'm just like, was that dude an alien or not? Maybe that guy was a member of, like I said, the Earth that Captain Luthor and them are from, and this new woman is from Krypton. Maybe I'm confused now, but it's also interesting at the same time because one thing the show is letting us know so far. The types of villains that Clark is going to have to face, the types of villains, because we're used to him taking down like Lex Luthor, like trying to outthink Lex Luthor. He's taking on people that are going to be as same to equal strength as him. So he can't finesse his way out of this one. He's going to actually have to like use his strength. But the problem is he's not the strongest person anymore. There are other people, that can rival him. So and Captain Luthor wasn't even in this episode, which was weird. So maybe it's a different group of people. I don't know, but there's some interesting things going on down in the good town of Smallville. So that was it. Like I said, that was it. Like I said, the intrigue is definitely there. We don't get a lot of but because the show is Superman and Lois and it's centered more around the family, we get like 80% family. It's almost like it's 60% family drama. 50. It's like it's 60% family drama. It's 25%, 20 to 25% Lois, and the rest is actual Superman stuff. But that's cool because when the villain's plan is revealed, we'll get more Superman, like as we go along because Lois is going to be in the center of it and he's going to have to show up to save her ass. So thank you for tuning in. Let me know what you think of Superman and Lois so far. The show got great reviews in the beginning when it first came out. Now that we're on to episode 3, are you still hooked? Are you still into it? I know I am. Like I said, I'm going to keep watching because I'm still praying for that Supergirl cameo. Check me out on the Otakus and Geek podcast as always with Sean, Justin, and Gotham Geek Girl Nadya. Check me out on Twitter, on Instagram, definitely on YouTube. Ask questions, like the video, hit the notification bell, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll keep talking about some Superman and Lois. So until next time, guys, up and away and about this bitch.